Good morning, guys. It's Aaron Levine with LG Insurance Agency. I've got my good friends John Latimer from the Barclay Group and Casey Yarger from Petrie and Daughter Insurance Agency. And we're here to talk about something really fun. John, you've got something in your background. It looks like you staged it there. Is that just your regular bicycle?
No, this is my brand new e-bike. I stopped in a bike shop last summer to get a $10 tire fixed and fell in love with this e-bike situation and got a couple there and got some here in Florida. And it really everybody that has ridden one has gone out and bought one. So it's a thing, and I really want to share with everybody some of the issues as they relate to e-bikes, legislation, and insurance.
So it's funny. I was at the bike shop this weekend with my soon-to-be 9-year-old, and she was having a hard time picking out a bike. And of course, they had e-bikes. I'm like, if you don't want to pedal and shift gears, we might as well just go all in and get you an e-bike before this legislation kicks in, and you need to be licensed. And I don't know if a 9-year-old is going to qualify at that point. But I'd be scared to death to let her ride an e-bike around, knowing what's going on with all of it. So Casey, this was your idea. You asked us to put something together with respect to your work as a committee chair for PIA New Jersey on the legislative committee. So tell us a little bit more about what's going on with legislation and where we're going, and then I want John to talk about e-bikes and where we're going to go next.
Absolutely. So we're all aware of e-bikes. They're out there on the roads now. We see them everywhere, and the state has finally gotten wise, and they want to figure out some way to kind of rein that in a little bit. So there's proposed legislation that would require the registration and insurance being applicable to e-bikes, just as it would be to mopeds or motorcycles. Very, very similar wording, in fact. And so that creates a couple different issues for us. First, from just a basic legislative perspective, it does not require licensing or anything like that. Just to correct one comment from previously, it does not require the operator to be licensed. However, we've found that pretty much nobody will insure it if you do not have a license. And so it's a little chicken and an egg situation there. So basically, it looks like the way the bill is currently structured that they want us to insure these things as mopeds, and there is some market out there for that. The market is not as robust as it is as the e-bike marketplace happens to be right now. They're selling tons of these things, and we need to figure out a way to cover them properly. Now, as far as coverage gaps are concerned, who is the operator of the e-bike? Is it a minor, perhaps? Is it somebody who doesn't have a license currently for whatever reason? Maybe their license is suspended. Are they legally able to operate these devices? That actually wasn't specified within the law with regard to licensing. However, as I mentioned, from an insurance perspective, we really are struggling to find enough carriers out there and enough capacity in the marketplace to insure all of our customers properly. And so that's
Casey,
why we're opening these discussions.
Let's take a quick step back here, right? So John has e-bikes in multiple states.
Yes.
He is a conscious and avid e-biker, but he's also an insurance guy, and he wants to make sure that he's protecting himself. Now, we have people all over, you have people all over New York City riding these things like banshees. And
Yes.
All over the beach towns by me, people are riding them everywhere, right? From what we understand, there's a gap in coverage that exists today for anybody that's buying it and thinks that they're just going to go out on the road, right?
Right. Your average person.
No coverage on the auto.
Let me jump in on that one.
Go ahead, John.
I turn around and see the e-bike in the shop, and I said, "Oh, I'd like to ride that home since my other one's broken." And when I went out the door, I didn't think at all about what an e-bike was or whether I was covered, right? So if I'd left the shop and caused a 5-car accident, which was, highly likely at the beach, I'd have no coverage on my homeowner policy because it excludes motorized vehicles. I'd have no coverage on my personal auto policy because it also has the exclusion for motorcycles, et cetera, and bikes. So I left basically naked, and later got a hold of our office and was able to find a policy with an insurance company for about $125, giving me a $500,000 of liability. So it's important. I think we start with the idea. Well, let's start with what's an e-bike. So I'll just show you a little pic here of the e-bike. The e-bike is a bike with tail lights, a lot of safety features, tail lights, brake lights, place for your cell phone, and a headlight, and hydraulic brakes, and a motor in the rear wheel. And they've classified them sort of uniformly now nationally to be in 3 classes. So a class 1 e-bike is a bike that helps you pedal, gives you pedal assist with some electricity, and that's a class 1 e-bike, and it goes to a max of 20 miles an hour. And this particular one has a torque sensor, so it senses when you're pedaling a little harder and throws in the electricity. So that would be a class 1 e-bike. And most of those have a motor between 250 watts. They have 250, 500, or 750. So 750 is usually for a mountain bike. 500 is for this one, which is a kind of a high-end road bike, around about $1,500, which is great value, plus accessories. And then you go to class 2. So a class 2 e-bike has a separate throttle. This one has a little guy here. If I hit it, it'll drive into the wall. But so you can use just the throttle to get to 20 miles an hour. And that's a class 2 e-bike. And a class 3 e-bike is one that goes 28 miles an hour in either with pedal assist in either capacity. So they all have to have a label. This one has a class 2 label. So it has both the pedal assist and the throttle, but it turns out you can alter the software and make it go 28 miles an hour. So this one goes, this one's now a class 3 e-bike. So with pedal assist, it goes to 28 miles an hour. And that's some of what I'm fortunate to be with the PIA that's going to look at the legislation and make sure it's adaptable. As Casey said, the way this one is at 28 miles an hour, it's probably a moped, but it hasn't really been tested yet. So that's why the policy I have is actually a moped motorcycle policy. So the new law, I think Casey will get into it, has only 2 definitions, one for a class 1 and one for a class 2. And it's a little surprising they want those registered, but maybe Casey can highlight that. What about the new bill? It's a bill pending, what, Senate Bill number 2292 is 2292. Pending, and it's going to pretty much change the world for those of us that have customers. I assume most of those people riding around are customers, hopefully, of professional insurance agencies, and they really need to get insurance.
So conscious consumers there is a way to buy insurance today, right? There's definitely a way. There are some markets available to us here in New Jersey. There's markets available in Florida. What about New York? Did we find out if there's New York coverage available? Or we think it's available nationwide right now?
I'd assume that some of the carriers that are already writing it are writing it in New York as well. New Jersey, we are the last with a few carriers, so we still don't have full capacity within the marketplace. All the carriers who are writing it nationwide aren't necessarily writing it in this state or that state at this point. That's one of the tricky parts. And New Jersey being a little bit more tricky when it comes to personal auto in general. That's probably why they're holding back a little bit.
So for the agent community, it's going to be important to. Go ahead, John.
I'd say they're terrified about what the cost should be. So it was interesting in New Jersey, it was reasonable, $125, but most of the carriers that we talk to don't want to get into the market, even those that are in the motorcycle market. And then in Florida, it's about 5 times that much. So the poor folks in Florida got enough problems with property insurance. Now they're going to have the expensive e-bikes on top of it. But we need to talk about it, and hopefully markets will develop at a reasonable cost.
Yeah, that's on us to educate our customers, right? As it always is. We want to do the best we can to educate our consumers, and I think the bike shops need to be educated here as well when they're selling these things, that there is coverage available, and that the people walking out the door and getting on these things should should buy something, right? They're forced to buy it if they're buying a motorcycle, I would assume. And obviously, when you buy a car, you have to make sure you show proof of coverage before you drive off the lot. So we're going to have
Yeah,
to hopefully get to that same point.
and they didn't get into that, which was a little scary. Although they did, there's some additions here you should have. Everybody should have a bell. I love the bell because, when you bike by those guys in the tight pants going, 20 miles an hour without the electricity, and I'm biking along, they say on your left, right? So now I just ring the bell with them. It's a lot of fun. Right? And any rate, so you have a bell. I added a mirror, right? There's a cell phone holder, very important, and you should have a bike app because down here in Florida, it's very congested. So if you see the bike app, it's set for e-bike, and it'll find your road without a lot of cars.
That's
which
cool.
is very nice. That's cool to have. And this one even has turn signals. So there are a lot of safety features on these things that are helpful that they went over in some detail, but nobody, including myself, thought about insurance until I got home and thought, boy, I wonder who's going to own this house. It'll probably be the guy who I hit on my e-bike.
What about
So-
your personal injury protection when you're on that thing, right? So if you're on a regular pedal bicycle in New Jersey, you can be covered by your PIP coverage. But on the e-bike, there's definitely going to be a no PIP coverage unless you're purchasing a private policy, right?
That's my understanding, Casey. The new law requires PIP, and did it require uninsured motorists too? The new bill, I think it did, right?
It does require uninsured motorist coverage, correct? It
So now you have-
basically mirrors what the coverage was required for a moped or to be honest, even a motorcycle. It's very similar from a coverage perspective.
So if I look at mine, I shouldn't say for the first time, but I have an agent, Timmy, he's here. But anyway, so yeah, I have $500,000 each person coverage, 500,000 per accident, 250,000 in property damage, and uninsured motorist coverage, 25,000 and 50,000. Then I have coverage for the bike, just like a motorcycle or a car, collision and other than collision with a 250 deductible. That runs about $20 for each of those. And that's it. So it's a full policy for $125.
Sounds more than reasonable. Casey, what else do we need to know about the proposed legislation when it comes to the work we're doing at PIA?
One small thing that we need to revise in the proposed legislation, and John pointed this out. So we have 3 different classifications of bikes. Jersey is kind of lumping them into 2 classes. Low speed electric bicycles would be class 1 and class 2. With a max of 20 miles per hour. And then class 3 would be classified as a motorized bicycle, technically, which would be a separate classification. One of the problems there is that they capped it at 25 miles an hour, and we know that these things tend to have a max speed of 28. So we do need to actually have them amend that one section to the legislation. But otherwise, we just really want to be able to provide correct coverage to our customers, and that's the really scary part right now, because there's really not a lot of availability in the marketplace. That's the only real concern from the legislative perspective, the only thing that we need to actually have amended. I'd like to see helmets too, but I know there's some pushback on that.
Whoa. Let's hold that thought. This is my e-bike outfit. Do you see a helmet on here? I'm in Florida. Because of that, you don't want me to move the entire operation here. Yeah. I'm sorry. Let's not get into politics, but you get the idea.
I'm a big fan of bike helmets. Big fan.
I didn't know bike helmets were political, but I understand.
Well,
a guy that's.
But let me say why I have you, and people can get interested and active in this. There's an organization, peopleforbikes.org, and it's out of Colorado, but they are really trying to push model legislation nationally to sort of balance safety and regulation and insurance with some freedoms. They're terrified that the legislation is going to get too restrictive. So it's interesting. It's an interesting site to look at, and it gives you the laws in every single state. And again, I'm here to publicize for our members, PIA members. PIA has always been great for me, helping me, educating me. And so I'm here to tell our members about this, and hopefully our members can share this with their customers, because it looks like there's not a lot of people talking about the insurance and what these things are all about. But they're wonderful devices. I mean, for the bang for the buck is huge. So.
I'm gonna have to get one to take myself back and forth to the beach. But I do like the pedal bikes. I am one of those. I used to be one of those guys wearing the spandex. You know, big fan of helmets. I got put in an ambulance once. You know, so
that's this. See, nobody passes you in these things. You know, you're faster than the cars on the beach.
I got cut off by a car, and then my head went into it.
But that's some of the confusion. These things have 8 gears, and I pedal continuously the entire time, and I get a workout. All the electricity does is take the wind out and a little bit of the hills. But you know, if you like that kind of thing. But it's interesting. I call it the handicap system, as it is in golf, because the number of people that have ridden these, I find that now I can keep up with my tight pants friends, and they'll take me on a ride.
That's awesome.
I had one of the tight pants biker guys down, was president of an insurance company, and his wife said, well, you know, I can't keep up with him on the hills up in North Jersey, so you know, I don't ride with him anymore. So we let her try one, and they drove home from the beach with one, and they absolutely love it. So it's a handicap system for still exercise. I mean, geez, it's really for those with I had diabetes and the peripheral neuropathy. That biking fixes that. I shouldn't say fixes it, but it certainly cleans it up. Well, we got into some detail there, but you get the idea.
Listen, all good stuff. Casey, thanks for bringing the legislation out to our committee and to our members at PIA. John, thanks for your promotion and information and knowledge about the sport of e-bikes, I guess, or the adventures of e-bikes. Go ahead, Casey.
Before we cut off, there is one other one. Everybody likes to think about cruising around at the beach on these things, but they're going to be purchased and used by commercial entities for deliveries at some point, especially in some of these smaller shore towns, in some of the inner cities. They're very prevalent in Newark, in New York, in any densely populated area. We've spoken with both PAPE and CAPE about these. There will be a mechanism in place were this law to go into effect. There will be a mechanism in place to write these with either PAPE and or CAPE where necessary.
Good to know. Real quick, one last very important point.
We'll see what workers' comp does.
Hazards. There's a real movement now and a concern, in fact, right here in my own condo, about the batteries for these. So the battery pops out. This is a $500 battery. So the $1,500 bike, you got a $500 battery, a $200 wheel with a motor, and the rest is the bike. That's why I say it's good value. But these lithium-ion batteries, that may be the subject of another podcast, but there's been some concern that charging them indoors, you know, there's a fire risk. So you need to really look at the labeling and the certifications on these things, because some of them are not built this well. And with respect to travel with your e-bike and your extra battery, I'm told that you can go on a flight with it, but this has to be in your carry-on. So that may be the subject of another podcast, but you know, I just found out last night they're talking about changing the rules of the condo so that you can't have an e-bike indoors. So this might be our last indoor podcast due to the fire risk. So
they're gonna have to build a charging cage outside.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of changes, I think. And we are cutting edge here at PIA.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for your time. I really look forward to getting this out to the public.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Casey. Bye-bye.
Have a nice Monday, everybody.